Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the middle after dark over here.
Nice. We are 8 middle-class people from all across mostly Ohio. I'm not sure where we're all from. Coming to you from the middle parts of some of our lives, a little bit of the laters at others. For you guys.
That was awesome, Greg. Thank you so much. Welcome to episode 50 of From the Middle. We have reached out to some of our friends and middlers to join us. By the way, I hope it's okay with you guys that this is going to be seen by at least 12 people on YouTube. So welcome to episode 50. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. This is awesome.
Thanks for having us. I hope we can behave.
I dig the new music. The intro music was really, I like that a lot. It was like, I don't know. The other one, when I first heard it, I was like, ooh, Stranger Things. And then this one is definitely like you hear the basis of it, but I don't know, it's got a very unique sound. I like the dubbing of your guys' clips in the background. That was pretty cool.
And we can all understand the Kendall laugh that kind of haunts the ending of that. Perfect.
Yes.
It is very unique, Charles. Yeah.
Shout out to Samson. You can go grab his EP Afterlight right now on iTunes. That was a specially made remix just for us on From the Middle for us to use from here on out. We're super excited about it. Thank you, Samson. Be sure to give him a follow all over. But yeah, I really dig the vibe of that one. It's like very chill. And I love having like some of our favorite quotes from the last 49 episodes. And Kendall's laugh absolutely had to go in there.
Yeah. So for those of you at home listening to the podcast, this is what's been interesting is that we've been doing these Zoom things now for a couple months, and nobody really got to look at our faces until we started to do the Zoom stuff, because it was like a camera in the sky kind of camera angle that we were doing before. But even at that, like the Zoom thing has led us to play on having video interaction more and more. The reality still is that like almost all of our listenership is still in the podcast world, which makes sense. So for those of you who are at home, what we're looking at is a picture of some of the people who have been the most interactive, I think, through our social media stuff and whatnot, or call-ins, emails, illustrations, and so forth. And
I'm looking at
I don't know. There's one guy in here who it could have been, and I still think it's 50-50, either him or someone else.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about? Okay. Now I'm going to say it's 75-25. No, but no, we thought it would be a lot of fun. We've talked about it before, how much we like to have the interaction, how much we like having those voicemails. Honestly, it's a fun thing for us to fill an episode with those things, which is why we tend to kind of save them and then say, hey, let's just have one big episode. Let's save all of these and chew on them later. So for our 50th episode, which also happens to be our 1-year anniversary, we thought it would be fun to have a few of these folks here. And so thank you guys for being here with us. And I think it's going to be fun.
So why don't we do this? Let's just introduce yourselves in a few sentences, and either how you heard about the podcast or how you know one of the three of us. And we'll go around the horn. We'll start with Betsy on the top row, right square.
Yay. I'm Betsy. This is Sweetie, if anybody cares. I go to church with Corey and Kendall. So, I mean, that's how I heard about the podcast, and that's how I know people. And yeah, and I live in Central Ohio, and I might be further down the middle part of my life than some of the other people here. So.
And if you're not watching the podcast, the other lovely being that she introduced was her dog. All the more reason to go check out YouTube.
Absolutely. Dylan, we know you, so we'll skip to Middle Square, Greg.
My name is Greg. I went to school with Kendall. Kendall and I were on a t-ball team in 4th grade, 3rd grade. I don't know.
Very long time ago.
Anyway, so
I think it was
I've known
Coach
Kendall
Mitch.
for a while. Then listened to you guys for most of the time. And despite what Kendall thinks, I have never emailed you guys. So sorry, Kendall.
It's the other guy. Well, then I'm pretty sure who it is then.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
All right, Charles, you're up.
Well, I noticed that Greg did not deny being the artist. He just denied emailing you guys. So I don't know if that has anything to do. But so
Do you have
my
any
name's
aliases, Greg?
I don't know what you're talking about.
my name is Charles. I also went to school with Kendall, and I moved into their school district when I was in 5th grade, and I think we became friends a bit that year, but definitely in middle school and throughout high school. I found the podcast from him back when I was still on Facebook. He sent me like an invitation to like the page of the podcast. And I was like, I don't like to like things on Facebook, but I checked it out anyway. And I've been listening since episode 1. So I've been with you guys for apparently a year now. That's awesome. Congratulations on making it through. Cause that is quite an accomplishment.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the support. We love having you. And I got to say, man, you made me feel really good about my hunting story. So.
Oh man, I was just feeling every emotion that you felt that whole time. I was like, yep, I've been there so many times before.
I appreciate you. Sheri, who we cannot see, and this is not my wife, Sheri. She's only listened to 1 episode ever. Sheri, with an S, though, has listened to a lot more episodes. We cannot see her. But Sheri, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Sheri. And I know Corey and Dylan from middle school-ish times, probably. I watched you grow up in Lima when I lived there, and actually you were in our youth group, and you both have lots of good memories from watching you grow up, and it was just exciting. I think I saw on your Facebook page or something you shared that you were doing this podcast, and more than anything, it was just good to hear your voices again.
That's very sweet. And thank you for your support. And Sheri, it's crazy how much you and I have in common the more I divulge on this silly podcast about my quirks, if you will, freak flag pet peeves.
They match.
We have a lot of those in common.
I know what you're going to say before you say it.
It's a little frightening. Kennedy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Surprise, I'm a 17-year-old girl.
Aren't we all?
No. Yes, I am actually Michelle Connor. I'm on my daughter's laptop for school because I have no idea how to do Zoom meetings. So this is my first time.
Oh,
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite terrifying. I'm realizing how noisy my house is. But I know Corey and Dylan, and I've known them for quite a while. I am their favorite aunt, Michelle. But yes, known them since 1997.
And we were just, you guys were just at our house, Michelle. We were just talking about the very first time that we met you. This was before you were dating our uncle.
Yes.
And you were singing with our mother in a group. And that was sort of how the connection all came to be. And then, I don't know, Kevin just hit on you or whatever, and the rest is history.
He's been stuck with me ever since.
That's awesome. All right, question 2. Let's just get this out of the way, okay? We can just all sigh a big breath of relief once we just get this off our collective chest, okay? So just how behind are you? We know you're not caught up to episode 49. So where did you stop listening?
When did we jump the shark for you?
Actually, about 10 minutes to episode 49. So.
Hey! all
Ah,
right.
wow.
Impressive.
Good job, Betsy.
I'm actually shocked.
I have to admit, like, I was a little behind, but I've been trying to catch up. I listened to 49 today, but the reason that people are falling behind, and I've decided, I don't have a commute anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we decided. Yeah. We have our behind the scenes numbers that tell us that exact story. Quarantine starts, podcast listenership tanked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
interesting because I still, like, even if I have a back catalog, I'm in the middle of 49 right now. I can't remember what part of it. I would say maybe 20 minutes into it or something, but I just have my podcast or my app is subscribed to it, so it downloads it every week, even if I haven't gotten around to listening to it yet. So I don't know if your numbers show the listening or the downloads or both, or how all that works.
I think it's downloads.
Okay.
I'm not sure about
Yeah,
that.
because that wouldn't affect my download.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is definitely, like, well, I've been doing some projects around the house, so I've been listening to podcasts and kind of getting caught up on stuff. But yeah, when
Charles, project around the house?
a project that took me about a month to do. I built a chicken coop in the backyard, and we have chickens now. So
Nice.
yeah. So but yeah, so I got caught up on a lot of podcasts when I was working out there for hours and hours and hours. But yeah.
No, we invited you on to episode 50, and a bunch of you crammed for the test is what happened.
I mean, it's why I finished it today.
Oh, crap. They're going to ask questions.
I'm actually caught up.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, I every Wednesday, I look forward to it. I finish listening by about 9 a.m. I wake up, first thing I do, it's like, awesome, it's Wednesday. And so I listen, and then I actually listen to you before Office Ladies.
Wow. That's saying
Yeah.
something. Can we get that writing?
And Joyce Meyer.
That's awesome. Okay, now the only one who's not going to be caught up is family. Go ahead, Michelle.
Are you still the favorite aunt?
Oh, I'm always the favorite aunt. I think I'm on 47, but
Okay.
I have to say I have jumped around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just how I am in my brain. You know that. So
That's fun.
but yeah, now that I've been home with not working, now I just put headphones in and do stuff around the house so I can't hear my children.
Perfect.
And one of them just commented, so.
Okay, the rest of these questions, you guys, not everybody has to answer. So you only have to speak up if you have strong feelings one way or the other. And Dylan or Kendall, I'll let you guys do some of the next ones. What's your favorite or least favorite moment from the last 49 episodes? A favorite or least favorite moment?
I will start. Only because I don't watch any Star Wars. I've never seen them. So I apologize. But those are the ones I'm kind of like, But I enjoy hearing you. I do. But yes, those are the ones I may speed you up on. Maybe.
That's fair.
Well, I definitely speed. I listen at 1.5 speed, and so you guys sound a lot more quick-witted when I'm listening to the after the fact than we have been so far tonight. But no, yeah, the Star Wars I'm into. The Marvel movies, I couldn't keep up with them, and I gave up trying. So all of that kind of stuff. Like I don't mind hearing people talk about them, but it's just it's not in my realm of like knowledge, so I don't really get as much out of it. I think my favorite things, I really enjoyed listening to, I guess as a general theme, the creative process and how you guys approach the creative process. I thought that was really cool and neat to hear the different perspectives and all that.
We got to pause. There's a serpent.
There's
a serpent in the house. I need to know what's going on.
Wrapped around her neck.
It's right above your head, Charles.
Oh.
This is Olive. She's Noah's.
We're breaking new ground right now.
Yeah.
Isn't she cute?
Nope.
Right, no, you can have her back. You don't want a pet snake?
Oh man, the dog looks hungry.
I think she's scared of the snake. All right, she's squishing my wrist.
Okay.
We have midlers and snakes on the cast tonight. This is fun. Oh, that's
So-
awesome.
I really like the creative process ones, and I like them a lot just because I have a kid in art school and stuff, and as a parent, it gave me hope for her future and like having a career, stuff like that. I have to say, the one where you were talking about Kendall's bird and the bird leash was one of my favorites, only because that same child who goes to art school, her very first job was making bird leashes for the guy who invented the bird leash.
No. Are you serious?
We have to get him on here.
He's our
He's
next
from
guest.
Sunbury.
What? That's wild.
I wonder if I saw him the other day. Because there was, I don't know. I literally saw, like, I was in the office at the church, and I saw him, and there was, okay, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going through a thought process in my head while we were recording, which I shouldn't do. Anyway.
It's like out loud.
A guy,
Okay,
yeah,
no one's paying attention.
a guy in Sunbury walking down the street with a macaw on a leash. Yeah. I wonder if that was...
Have you seen that GIF of the guy with two parrots on leashes and he's running? I think somebody shared that to our page, actually.
Yeah, I think someone did.
Yeah, that's funny.
Can we break just for a second and
Don't do it.
understand
No,
that it's
no,
pronounced
no.
GIF?
It is not. It is GIF. He
It's
was right. You
pronounced
don't
GIF.
need to correct it.
It's pronounced GIF.
I'm
The guy who created it calls it a GIF. If you name a file format, you can call it whatever you want. He called it a GIF.
If Jod himself came and commanded me to call it GIF, I would not do so because it is GIF.
GIF.
I'm team GIF as well.
GIF.
Haven't you seen the peanut butter jars? GIF is a creamy, nutty treat. A GIF is a picture
No,
that moves. It's such a
No.
funny thing.
GIF.
Oh, that's funny. I have a new least favorite moment when we were required to call it GIF.
Just because you're wrong.
You fit right in, Greg. I love it. Any other favorite or least favorite moments from the last 49 or 47 episodes? That's fun.
Betsy, I think the bird leash moment was the first hook in our show for people that wanted something absurdly silly to laugh about, and I applaud Kendall for that moment. Because I think if anyone was unsure whether they wanted to listen, that kind of blew them in or blew them out. So I'm glad you brought that one up.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. There's another
Kennedy.
little creature.
Oh, yes, we had to get, this is Marty McFly.
You stuck on your shirt.
Oh,
Sorry, he's a sugar glider. But Kennedy has a favorite moment.
When Corey was talking about his friend from art school who didn't have a hand.
oh gosh.
The one that didn't have a hand and about put it in the fan. That was probably, I have not laughed that hard in a long time. Just because I could see your face once you realized, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah,
I think that was my favorite part.
yeah. I'm glad you can laugh at my pain, Kennedy. That's fun. And when we get to the odd and funny family stories, we are going to share that story that you sent in. So thank you for that. That'll be a good little story. All right, Kendall or Dylan, you're up with the questions. They're on the shared note.
What is something you would like to see in the next 50 episodes? Or hear, as it were. Or taste.
I keep hearing about an episode about funny family stories, and I kind of expected it about 25 episodes ago.
Us too.
I had a nice time.
Us too.
Yeah.
So did we. Apparently all y'all's families are boring. And so we don't have quite the backlog that we thought we might by now.
We do have some.
We do have some also, but I'm not sure if they're, still in legal
What's
legal
the
things.
statute of limitation?
Yeah.
Vanna White.
That makes him better.
That's fun.
That's it. Just the
No,
family.
I'll be honest. When I was introduced to the podcast, either on Facebook or maybe just the first one, and you go through the spiel about the point of view from the middle, I was expecting more politics. Like I thought it was going to be more of a political podcast, and so it would be interesting, I think, to hear. I mean, I know like religion and politics are the things that, if you're trying to build an audience, that's not really what you're supposed to talk about. But I don't know. It's just something I'm interested in. So I always interested in hearing people's opinions on stuff, and you guys have pretty interesting opinions on the things that you've talked about so far.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. Like we've talked about politics, like we've talked about the existence of politics, and we've talked about talking about politics, but we've never actually dived, whatever.
I think it's divot. Yeah.
We never have divin.
Yeah.
Into a particular topic necessarily. I don't know whether or not to expect us to. I think like for me,
I mean, it
I just
clearly
don't want
became
to.
like after a couple of episodes, I understood better what the podcast was about. So it's not really what it is, but yeah, that was my first impression to it, and then I kept waiting for the politics, and
that's understandable. Yeah.
Eventually, I realized that's just not
well, points of view can mean something other than
right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because we've had a lot of fun talking about and circling around other things that we would enjoy as maybe side YouTube content, or things that maybe are not. It's almost like the Star Wars episodes. I hate to use a reference that doesn't land for everybody, but like there's the key episodes and then there's the spin-off stories.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the podcast episodes will continue in a similar form, but we're having a lot of fun with ideas around video content and side content. So maybe that's something that'll pop up that won't be as obvious in the podcast app, but we'll talk about and push to YouTube or something like that.
That is interesting. I'm often of the mind, like, who cares what I think about, like politics or any sort of issue? So, like, it's not I got to remain centrist because that's what we said we were going to do. It's like, I don't even think anybody cares. That's funny.
We did have one person who tried to, I think, bait us with a with an email one time, and we're just it's one of the few that we were just like, yeah, we're gonna ignore that.
It was right in the heat of a evangelical church sort of debate, and they threw us an email that was like, "What's your take?" And we're like, "No."
Have you listened to us?
Yeah,
that's not what we do.
Yeah.
I don't know I think I might have been the first person to read that email and just kind of in our text thread went,
do we want to touch this? Because I'm
not sure. I mean, I appreciate the interaction, but I'm not sure this is what we were going for. So,
yeah. All right. Tell us something that you think one of us is completely wrong about.
It's pronounced a GIF.
Other than your mispronunciation of GIF.
Yeah. A weird stance for a guy named Greg.
Have you ever seen a giraffe?
Have you ever seen a giraffe?
Giraffe.
Giraffe.
All right. Corey is completely wrong that you have to choose between Marvel and DC.
Well, just if you want good stories.
They no.
Okay, so I'm not a big comic book person, but like Corey, do you mean if you want good stories from the characters and like all that kind of stuff, or just the movie? Like every DC movie is terrible and the Marvel movies are good?
No, I love to hate. As a kid, I started as a Batman fan. And the reason I liked Batman, I was just talking to my oldest daughter about this the other day. The reason I liked Batman was because he didn't have any powers. He was just rich and he taught himself martial arts. And he had cool gadgets. So he was more relatable in the sense that he wasn't bitten by anything radioactive or nothing spilled in a lab. So I was like, Batman's my guy. And then it became Spider-Man. And then when they started making the movies, there's just such a clear there's such better storytelling within the Marvel studio, and it's really sad because DC does really have a lot of strong licenses with their characters, but just the movies are just painful. And I really do. I mean, it's more fun to hate on them, but I really do wish for them that they get sort of the maturity with their studio that Marvel has. And I think, and there's been some really good articles shared about people who are on the inside of the DC think tank and studio process. And there's basically there's just too many bigwigs, corporate bigwigs involved. And so a lot of stuff gets shot down that probably would be really good storytelling because they're just going for top dollar or whatever. So Dylan, you'll probably say that or articulate that a lot better. It's more fun to hate on DC and Xbox and Android phones and what else?
Yeah, on the DC one, I think I've read a lot of similar. Obviously, I'm a nobody, but from what I've read in articles, it's a lot. There's too many chiefs. That expression at Warner Brothers, where Kevin Feige from the beginning has really steered and directed, not literally film direct, but has guided the whole Marvel universe. And so when you have one person who knows the content really well, like Kevin Feige, I think that's done Marvel's, pun intended, for the MCU. So hopefully, I truly would. I'm more of a Marvel guy. I truly love to see a DC universe played out like the Marvel universe. I think that'd be awesome. In fact, we talked about it off episode once. The early 2000s animated Justice League cartoons, like from a storytelling and continuous storytelling, character development stuff, was really fun to watch. It was animated, so most adults won't give it a shot, but it was great. And you got to see all the DC characters come to life in cartoon form. And so I'd love to see them bring something like that out. I think that'd be great. And I don't know that I'd love the characters more, but I'd love to watch it unfold.
It just feels like they're continually playing catch up, like Avengers was coming out and they scrambled to do Justice League to stay relevant and keep up. So it's more of like, oh, that's a pity. Like they have some really good characters and heroes that have some good stories. We're losing some folks, so we'll stop talking about comics.
Yeah. That was 5 minutes ago.
I think comic books are colorful, and I like it when they use the word "pow" and a spiky bubble. Sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So yes, Charles, that's just specific to the movies and the franchises, to answer your question. All right. What else have we been wrong about other than GIF and Marvel or DC?
I mean, I know I already gave some feedback to Kendall on this, but like the whole Cliff Bar and Nalgene water bottle thing, like you guys are just very wrong about that. Kendall was right, and it was everywhere. Like everybody had these things that were useful to rock climbers, but it was just a preppy or a trendy thing to do, I guess. And I don't know, you couldn't throw a rock without hitting a Nalgene bottle. It was everywhere.
Look, I because I was only hearing it from Kendall, I didn't believe it until one of my childhood best friends called in, left a voicemail. We had it on an episode, and I don't know why he saw it and I didn't, because he went to a different part of the college than I did and hung out with different people once we hit college. But once he said that, I was like, all right, then I'm the crazy one. So if Kendall and somebody that I grew up with saw it, I just didn't see it, and I totally missed that one. So I'll acknowledge I was wrong on the Nalgene and the Cliff Bars or hiking socks or yodeling or whatever it was.
Well, I feel like all those Nalgene bottles had like a bunch of stickers on them all over the place. But yeah, Kendall, yeah, I'm with that.
All right.
That's funny. It would probably be really interesting to find like these little regions of the U.S. where it's like, oh, you can't go to northern Maine without finding Dr. Pepper and cashews everywhere. Like there's probably
except for it was the whole country and Nalgene bottles.
That's funny.
Except for the Hubble brothers and Jeremy Kester.
Well, you were outnumbered that episode.
I was. I felt so alone.
We just needed you kind folks to join and back them up. So thank you. That's wonderful.
And we're back with the second half of episode 50 of From the Middle, where we have all of our friends with us, and we are asking them questions. They're on the hot seat tonight talking about really just how bad we are and letting them know how much we appreciate their support. So where were we? We were talking about things that you disagree with us on or about.
I have a question, Corey, on your screen, because I realize it's different on everybody's. And this could be extraordinarily inappropriate.
Yeah.
Who's next to me on your screen?
I'm next to you on my screen.
Is Greg on the other side?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's either you or Greg that I just pretended to lick.
Oh, okay.
Just wanted to make sure that it was.
Wait, which side am I on? Did I get the lick?
You got the lick, I think. Yeah.
Who's being licked? What's happening?
On my screen, it was me, and I saw the whole thing happen. So
you felt special for a moment, and then the moment passed. Oh, that's awesome! You guys are fun. We're gonna have you back. All right, Kendall, you're up.
Am I? What did we ask last time?
They know that there's no plan.
Yeah, anyway. Realistically, who is the most famous person? Realistically, who is the most famous person you could get on this Zoom call right now if you were to share the credentials?
All right, so let me give you the context while you think, okay? So my wife Sheri, shared with me this video of, I think there's some Olympic athletes, and they're doing a Zoom call. And like real time, they just go, if we were to share the meeting invite, who do we think is the most famous person that we could get on here? And then they start doing like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where one person is inviting somebody else, and they're trying to like lay the ground rules of who, of what's allowed. So like, you can't just say, click this link and join the call. You have to, whatever. So anyway, they kind of get some pretty famous people, but what's really funny is their reaction at like, meh, famous people, because they're like, oh, hey, Steve, because they're all doing this contest. So we need to share the video because I'm doing a poor job explaining it.
In my head, it's like Keanu Reeves comes on, and instead of him thinking like, man, I'm going to make their day, he gets on, and they're just like, oh, well, we expected you.
Exactly. So if we were to play that game right now,
which we're not going to do,
we think we could get?
I could get you the state champion of online Mario Kart. So
all right.
I could do that for you.
Do they do that by state? Do they have like a state?
Apparently.
Because I mean, like the internet is pretty global.
No, well, there's I don't know. There's some kind of organization, and it's mostly people like using emulators and real controllers and Super Nintendo controllers, I think, and on computers. Like this has been going on for like 15 years or 20 years, a very long time. Anyway, I know the guy who's the Ohio state champion in that world.
I would have to go through somebody else. So like I know a news anchor in Florida, and I would have to go, he's like in a major city in Florida. I'd have to go through him to get to somebody else. But that's like, I think that's my fastest route to somebody famous, like some pretty big politicians, if we wanted to.
I think there's an outside chance that I could get a football player or former football player. So
NFL?
NFL. So I had multiple classes with this student at Ohio State. But have you ever seen Nick Mangold and seen how much he looks like Kendall? Because Nick Mangold, the center of the New York Jets and Ohio State from 15 years ago or so, could be Kendall.
Looking it up. Nick Mangold.
In my shaggier days, yeah.
Nick Mangold.
Oh, boy. Okay, let's share a picture here. I'm gonna
I
share.
got a guy, he's a butcher down the street. He'd probably hop on just if I called him and begged him, probably.
Can you guys see that?
Oh yeah, I can see it.
I could see, a few years ago. Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean,
But
back when.
I think me knowing him plus looking like Kendall, maybe.
Okay.
Michelle, you probably know some musicians or singers or something.
I think the only one, well, this girl here had one she wanted to share, but I think mine would be Tammy Trent. I don't know if anybody knows her.
No.
She was, yeah, she's still popular.
Apparently not.
Oh, shut up. She's amazing.
Tammy, you're still popular in our hearts,
Yeah.
okay?
You're 1 for 8 in this group.
I know. You know her.
2 for 9. 2 for 9.
But yeah, that's probably.
Kennedy, who is yours?
Mine was the well, her cassettes are very well known at Goodwill. I was going to say Kelly Spallinger.
Know that lady? She would
That's
probably
awesome.
be one that we used to get somebody else on.
Yes, we did find her cassettes not too long ago at Goodwill.
That's
Did you
awesome.
buy them?
Yes, we bought them. But get this, they were 99 cents.
Oh,
Wow,
So
Steep.
we are
Did
going to
you-
wrap them up for her birthday.
that's
I was gonna
awesome.
say, did you
Awesome.
buy something to play them on?
Oh no, we still have.
Do you really?
Cassette player? Yes.
wow.
And VHS
That's great.
and everything.
Yeah.
Is
For
that the
those,
same
of you
thing?
that, for those of you that don't know, Dylan and I's mother is a recording artist, and she was on a Gaither Homecoming video and nominated for a Dove Award, which is the Christian version of the Grammys in the 90s. And so, yes, she sang with lots of people that you would know of. And yeah, so anyway, that's funny.
All right, Corey, you got to do a little Google action.
Okay.
This is going to be some free press. You won't know the name, but you might recognize the face.
Okay.
You're going to Google search Carl Zeeler, and it's nostalgic, N-O-W, nostalgic toys, just like nostalgia.
Yeah.
All of you have been at a store where you checked out, and they have all the tchotchkes and toys and stuff near the checkout, and every one of you has probably looked at this guy's face on a box before. And he has all kinds of little, like the squirmels and like the packaging. He's been a customer of mine at several companies that I've worked at. And interesting story. So he dropped out of college, I believe, and went and bought all these toys, patents that had expired, and started remanufacturing them and selling them as like cheap, fun toys for kids. So there are patents for all these things. He's been on The Simpsons. That's why you see him Simpsonified. But Carl Zeeler would be a face that people might recognize. And now when you're at like Bed Bath & Beyond and Walmart and Myers and those kind of places, and you see the little boxes of toys, look for his face. Nostalgic toys. That would be the most famous. Like I might be able to get him to hop on a call.
I just thought of another one for our next pet peeves episode. People who put an S on the end of retail stores
Myers.
for no reason.
Yeah,
Is it just Meyer? Did I say it wrong?
it's
Yeah.
Meyer.
Kroger's,
Kind of like
Myers.
Lego.
Oh, now I'll never forget it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sheri.
You're welcome.
That's awesome.
Meyer. Go to Meyer or Target,
Target.
Or Walmart. That's our favorite.
the Walmarts.
The Walmarts.
You guys are fun. I could hang out with you every night. But I have been quarantined for 2 months. All right, next. What are our other questions for our friends?
While you're looking at that, I just have to say it's been very fun. This episode will launch on basically our year anniversary. And 50 episodes has been a lot of fun, but honestly, it's all of you that make this more fun and allow us to keep doing this and justify to our spouses why we're doing this, and not spending time with our families. So I had a thought. It makes me seriously appreciate SNL people doing skit after skit, week after week, improv comedy groups, any writers for any sitcoms ever, because we're not scripted, but we still have to talk through some of this stuff. And 50 episodes in the traditional sense is at least 2 seasons of a TV show. And all the 10 episode shows that we have now, that's 5 years worth of content for a 10 episode series. And so it makes me appreciate all of those people a lot more. They do a ton of work to come up with scripts and dialogue and stories and all of those things, because we are not smart at all. And somehow we pull off conversations for an hour once a week. And those folks put in a ton of work to do what they do. So it makes me appreciate that a lot more, hitting the 50th mark and a year at the same time and going, all right. And we had a few stinkers. There's a few episodes that never made it out that won't.
Even once that made it out, that we like hit the enter button on the upload, and we're like, good, next week's another week.
Sure. That's half of them. I'm talking about the real bad ones. I mean the ones that just, I couldn't put my name on it. Think about that. Think about the things I've put my name on this show. And if I wouldn't put my name on it, it was real bad. So
Dylan's talking purely quantity, not quality.
Yeah. We don't have a ton of bad episodes. We have a few just very bad ones. Anyways.
Well, I do have to say, I was just reminded a few minutes ago that I forgot to mention my absolute favorite episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was very gently reminded by one of the wives of you boys in over 40 messages in the first video that my favorite episode was when the wives. Yes, that was my favorite. I
don't know what you're talking about.
Have been shamed now in over 40 messages, but it really was good.
I think our official position on that is, what are you talking about?
The wives?
There was a wives episode?
Nope.
I am not.
I'm still waiting on the spin-off podcast.
I tell you,
Can't do that because Sheri's going to listen to that one before us and Office Ladies.
Yeah, that's true. And then I'll have to get up at like 5.
Yeah, that's too much.
Hey, by the way, Sheri, on this podcast, Sheri, so on Office Ladies, they were just saying that I'm blanking on the woman that plays Pam in the show right now. Her actual name.
Jenna Fisher.
Jenna Fisher. She was saying that she's not a Star Wars fan at all. And
I know. I loved it.
Yeah.
And she watched it.
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet. I can't do it.
I love that show. And speaking of wives, so this is a funny little story that happened tonight, just in the spirit of self-defecation. So Kendall sends the group text a photo that is his Facebook alerts that says, Sheri Hubble liked, Sheri Hubble liked, Sheri Hubble liked, Sheri Hubble liked. All of this from the middle page.
My entire page of notifications.
All just boom, 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 boom. And he goes, what in the world happened? Did Lily commandeer Sheri's Facebook account and start liking things? And I go, that's exactly what happened. She still never listened to 2 episodes. But Lily is a big fan, and she really likes it. So.
The only reason why I knew it was Lily was because they were all likes except for one was a comment. She commented on the photo the picture that she drew.
She keeps saying, Dad, you need to do a kids episode. You need to do a kids episode. You need to have a kids
from the Littles.
From the Littles.
Oh, that's cute.
Good. That's awesome.
Please, Kendall, I don't know how old your children are, but can you
4
imagine?
and 5.
Oh my. Yeah.
That'd be perfect.
Finley in her Jessie outfit.
I just imagine chaos for an hour. Just
That's
See if it's any different.
What the parents do.
That would be fun.
I tell you
I
what,
would enjoy that.
I will totally. We're gonna hash this out in front of everybody. Go week for week, like from the guys from the middle, ladies from the middle, from the littles, and then pets, and then you have
From
a full
the
month.
All right, so we're going to put it out to you guys. Anything you want to talk about. There's no more questions. You're not on the hot seat anymore. Questions, comments, funny stuff. We appreciate you guys joining tonight. We know it's late. So before we wrap.
Embarrassing stories.
You have the floor.
I just want to comment, like, I listen to you guys at 1.5 speed as well, and I don't watch the videos, I just listen. Until tonight, I really had no idea which one of you was Corey and which one was Dylan.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat for that one. Yep.
Yeah, that's a very nice compliment.
So this is a shout out to all the listeners that have never watched the YouTube. Just get on the YouTube for a little bit. You'll be able to piece them together pretty easily.
Great.
That's a good piece of advice. Like I'm all about keeping the podcast thing going. Like I'm not trying to push people to YouTube or anything. I like podcasts. Anyway. But that's a good idea. Like log into the YouTube thing once, get the faces, and then go back to the podcast.
Which one of the Hubbles does the baseball announcer voice?
Corey.
That's Corey? All right. So that would have been my guess before. Like I had no guesses before tonight, but after seeing your faces, just like Greg said, I kind of putting things together. I bet you that it's Corey who does that one.
All right. Look, only reason I push the YouTube thing, I don't care about pushing the podcast to YouTube, but I have several very techie friends because that's the kind of nerds that I hang out with that they're like, dude, I'd love to check it out, but like, unless it's on YouTube that I can pull up on a side monitor, I'm not doing it. So I try to mention it for the nerdy folks, but I know there's people who are devout with their podcast app. That's awesome. Keep doing that. But yeah, if not every now and then to tune into YouTube, I think is fun because we're animated a little bit.
Well, it's like that's one thing about our song that we're going to start using now from Samson. It much more has the podcast feel to it, I think. Like for people who've been into podcasts for a while, like, or at least into like the intellectual podcasts with like the very soft spoken, let's talk about how something's made kind of podcasts. Like it sounds like the music that one of them would use.
Yeah.
It makes me feel more legitimate. Only we don't belong with that genre of podcasts whatsoever.
Oh, total fries.
We have too many fart jokes, but
some would say not enough fart jokes, but
yeah,
it's up for debate.
You pretty much lose my wife when you do the like hawking up a loogie type noise.
That's usually you.
She's gonna love that in the new intro. I'm not gonna tell
every single week.
If you guys do end up doing a From the Littles episode, I'm gonna say if it's another Zoom episode, just be ready for a lot of very dead air and kids like zooming in on their eyes at the camera and like watching what's happening on the screen, because that's pretty much all they do when they're on Zoom is like making faces at themselves.
And isn't Dylan's kid like 2 or something?
Yeah. Chaos. Total chaos.
Dylan, you could have a fashion show though and take up like an hour and sing songs.
If people are into looking at the same doll of Jesse and Woody over and over and over again for an hour, people are gonna love it. But I'm her dad, and I'm not sure I'm that audience. So we'll see.
If we want to kind of close out with like a more traditional from the middle type topic, what would you say is like the worst thing about Star Wars Episode 9 and why?
No. No. This is the part that I don't like. You guys throw spoilers out like it's no big deal.
Oh, well, spoiler alert then. That's fine.
Okay,
you can do
wait.
it.
I'll bite. I think that Leia should have flippin' died in Episode 8 when she got jettisoned out in space. She was already dead in real life, and I thought it was really cheesy that they kept plugging Leia in all over
Agreed.
episodes.
Agreed completely.
Disagree. The fact that Leia was Force sensitive the entire time was amazing.
Who's Leia?
Kennedy, put the paddles on your mom. We're talking about Star Wars. You're going to need to keep her with us.
Tell them what I just asked you.
No, I got another question though. Like, you guys are a full year in. You've done well. What advice would you give to someone that wanted to start their own podcast?
Not qualified.
Not qualified.
Can I share advice from the Twitter community that are much better at podcasting than we are that I've picked up?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people really concerned about having it all figured out before they get started, and they need to just get started. There's a lot of people concerned about that, and I don't know that just wasn't a concern. I think it helped that Kendall had a lot of equipment right out of the gate, but there's a lot of people that are overly thinking that they have to have it perfect from episode one. And it's that old adage, you don't have to have it right. You just have to get started, or however it goes. But I think it's that. And there's a lot of discussion about that on Twitter, which I find really interesting. I know I've mentioned that before, that Twitter's more about the podcast community than it is with us, at least our Twitter page, than us interacting with fans. But I found that really interesting, that the number of people that are trying to perfect things.
Mm-hmm. That goes back to what in one of the very early episodes Kendall kind of talked about. He compared this idea to starting like a garage band, and I remember him saying that he was really happy to have found two guys who were willing to like really stick with it and not just kind of give it a try for a couple episodes and be done with it. And I know you guys refer to, I can't remember which comedian's podcast, but like do it for 100 episodes and then you'll figure out what you're doing, kind of a thing. But like, I don't know, there's a lot to be said for, especially with the internet, where there is like no cost of entry into this stuff. Like, you can just do it and you won't know what you're doing or anything. But Greg's question was a great one, because it makes me interested too. Like, what would you guys say is like one of the most striking things that you've learned in the last year, or in 50 episodes of doing a podcast, that maybe you didn't expect, or just something that kind of caught you off guard with what it was going to be like? And I don't know if it's like the grind of having to do it every week, or if it's something else entirely that we wouldn't see as listeners, anything like that.
I would say, yeah, that sometimes it surprisingly turns into a little bit of a grind. Like we have sort of a backlog of episode ideas that we try to not really touch, because we like to have that safety net there. So there's that. But then also, when we were first starting to talk about doing this, Corey was talking about, we would just be having like a fun conversation, and Corey would be saying, see, this is what the podcast is going to be. It's like, just somebody just start recording this conversation, and that's what the podcast is. And that's all well and good until like you have to schedule it. Right. And then like and then you show up and you meet to start recording, and you start talking and bantering and having fun and catching up, and you're like, we haven't hit the record button, shut up. Like, yeah. So there is that. And so there have been weeks where like where I have just had to kind of like trust that like I'm going to be in a better mood for the next one, or whatever. If that, like, consistency is important here. Like, let's drop one on Wednesday, and let's do it every Wednesday, and they're not all going to be winners. I'm not going to feel great recording each and every one, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have value for somebody listening, which would be another thing. Like, don't worry about having to cater to everybody in your audience. That's why we title them the way we do. Like, when we were trying to work out how we were going to title the episodes, we were We thought about maybe just doing like funny, silly kind of ones that didn't really mean much. Instead, what we've done and decided to do is like, let's actually topically title them so that people know what it is. So if they don't want to listen to it, they don't have to listen to it. So if it's a Star Wars episode, we want to be clear to you that it's a Star Wars episode.
Thank you.
And those sorts of things. But there were like 4 points in there that I just kind of smushed all together. But consistency is very important. And having multiple people to do it with you is an incredible crutch, because you're not always going to feel like doing it. And you're not always going to feel like you have good ideas. And so doing it with friends is much more fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think just like every industry has an association and different boards and groups that back it up, podcasting has the same thing, even though it feels really informal. It's just 3 guys recording. And so they have a lot of interesting statistics on what makes people land on a podcast and what makes people stick with them. And consistency is huge. Also, there's an astronomically high number that don't make it past 10 episodes. Lots and lots and lots of people start them and record a couple episodes and drop out. And consistent episodes, and just sticking with it, knowing, like what Kendall said, knowing people aren't going to listen to every episode. We made that clear from episode 1. Like we want to name it and describe the episode in a way that people can hop in and out. And I don't get things right very often, but I had just enough insight, I think we all did, from learning a little bit before we started, to kind of free people up that, hey, you're going to be able to bounce around in this podcast and it's okay. Jump in and out of the episodes you want and don't want, and that's fine, and we hope you'll enjoy it. And if you happen to stick around for some that are a theme that you don't like, awesome. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. And Sheri's, all the Star Wars ones. Fine. I actually think Corey and Kendall did this whole thing just so I would know what not to talk about. This is really just like, just so it was clear. Like, hey, Dylan, did you catch that list of things that they don't? The topic. Anyways, I think Kendall hit the nail on the head, and I'm sure Corey has some thoughts.
He's on to us. No, listen, for me, it's really just about creating. I wanted a creative outlet that was different from the ones that I'm familiar with. And one of my mentors in life reminded me this last couple of weeks. She goes, you always have to know who is your audience and what are you trying to accomplish? And if what someone is trying to accomplish is just that it becomes this time capsule of their life. I have an older friend who he just wants to interview his parents in a fun, sort of playful podcast way for that inevitable time when they're no longer with him. And that he has those captured in a little time capsule that is his podcast. And I think he would be great at it because he's got stories to tell for days. And so as long as you are creating, for me, the act of creating, whether people ever listen or not, which is good for us, especially with the way things are trending right now. But there's something about creating, there's something about making something that doesn't exist. And there was sincerity, albeit non-political, really, that I think we've lost the art of conversation, and that's a sad reality for me. But I don't know if I'm answering you guys' questions, Greg and Charles, but it's like I just wanted to create something. I wanted it to be authentic and genuine. I wanted it to be conversational. And I wanted people to feel like they were just hanging out with us, whether they actually were or not. And the thing I'm most proud of in 49 or 50 episodes now is that people have said, I respond in my car like I'm hanging out with you guys, and I forget that I'm not. And that to me is like the best compliment somebody can give, because it just becomes real and authentic, and we're not.
It's also kind of ironic.
One of your favorite words, ironic. So for me, I just like creating. I like a different creative outlet, and I like just I sort of got over that overthinking and like it's got to be polished and perfect. And there's something beautiful about the messy and the genuine and the whatever it will be kind of thing. So if Bill Burr is correct, Charles, in his comment that you'll do 100 episodes before you figure out what it is. Well, we're halfway to knowing what the heck we're doing.
Indeed. Anyone else?
I was just going to say, I've enjoyed the episodes about things that I don't care anything about. Like if you guys are going to talk about wrestling, or there was a couple episodes and Dungeons and Dragons. But, I enjoyed the episodes and I enjoyed listening to your enthusiasm for the topics and, the little side stories and the things, the little childhood things of apparently Dylan really liked to play with little wrestling Barbie dolls.
That's accurate. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that.
But I think it gives more insight into you guys and your show and how you work to listen to the stuff that you don't care about, whether it be Star Wars or wrestling or, whatever. But I like that stuff.
Thank you. I'll talk about my Barbies more often.
So many times at family things, we just sit around and we have so much fun. And Corey and Dylan are just a lot of fun. And we act crazy and loud and just, stupid. And so it's so fun to get to see you guys doing that. So that's why we like it too. And Mr. Kendall, it's very nice to meet you. I've never met you in person, but I feel like I know you now because you're stuck with these guys. So
I think to kind of start to wrap us up a little bit here, I just wanted to comment that for this episode, and and we prefaced it by saying how important it is to have interaction and how that actually is our favorite part. How important it is to us to hear from you guys and how much we wanted to have you guys on here. And as I was going through like a list on Facebook of going through people who were following us and that kind of thing. And I tell you what, like if it were logistically possible to have a Zoom call and record it and then have it like good enough's the wrong word. But anyway, if it were possible to have 37 people on a Zoom call and have a good like logistical way of recording that meeting, I would do it. That's how important you guys are to me. And as Corey, Dylan, and I talk and share our stories and things, like it could be, this isn't, don't take this the wrong way, Corey or Dylan, but I feel like I could do that with like any of you guys. And it's just like in a certain point in time, it was Corey was in my life and he had a brother Dylan who also wanted to do a podcast. And so we got started. And so sharing stories and talking, I had never met Dylan until the first day we recorded. And getting to know people is awesome. And all of you have your stories and all of you are relatable in your own way. And all of you have your own expertise and things that you could share with the world. Even like Corey's an illustrator. Greg is also an artist. He's an art teacher. Charles is a teacher as well who could share all kinds of fun stories and there's so many different stories that each of us could tell that are worth telling. I'm glad that we have microphones in front of us that we get to tell our stories. But my hope is that those stories end up being relatable to people, because that's what's been important for me. That's the big thing for me that keeps it driving, that I feel like I can relate to people that I possibly haven't even met. And then even to friends like Greg and Charles who I haven't seen in a very, very long time, to like know in some kind of fashion that like they're a part of my story, that I get to tell. And it's fun that you guys are listening and are a part of it. I don't know. It's all just very important. That's a bunch of stuff I wanted to say really without a point.
Well said, Kendall. And, you guys would be surprised. Quite frankly, we are surprised by the messages that we've received already. Just 3 random dudes just talking about whatever. The people that are like, hey, I was going through a really tough time and your silly podcast like kept me laughing in a really dark place. And you're just like, what? Like, so if in some small way we can bring light into a world that is at times very dark, then awesome. And we thank you guys for listening and being a part of the journey. We said from the beginning that it was going to be a journey, and that we didn't really necessarily know where we were going, but that we were excited about it. And that's still true. I love hanging out with these two dudes, but more than anything, what Kendall said, we're not blowing smoke. Like, seeing and like hearing you guys interact and share things on the Facebook group, and just bringing positivity and a joke or a meme into one another's lives, especially right now, is awesome. And so I feel privileged to be a part of this thing that was just the germ of an idea a year ago. And so I just have to thank each of you for playing along, and all of those of you that listen and weren't invited into this call. We've got another at least 50 in us, and so maybe we do this again for 100. But really, from the bottom of our hearts, it means a lot that you guys listen to us for an hour on your commute. And thanks for joining tonight. This has been really fun. Any parting words from any of you? Is there anything you want to say? Shout outs to anybody?
I'm looking forward to the next 50. I hope you guys keep it up. I'm really, really excited for all that.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you all.
All right, we have less than a minute. So Dylan and I's dad, he declined an offer to be on the podcast tonight, but he did send us a voice message that we are going to leave you with. So Dad, thank you. You named the podcast and probably both of us. Thanks for the voice message. Thank you guys for listening for 50 episodes. We hope to see you for another 50, and then maybe, just maybe, we'll figure out what the heck we're doing. This has been From the Middle.